and welcome to MFS and the Hub. I'm Ross the Boss. That's Casey Latterman Scheinfeld, and we're live from La La, California. Well, Casey's from Pennsylvania, but doesn't matter. I'm from Los Angeles. That's all that counts. We are excited, Casey. Waiver Wire Week 1. Is that, do we call it week 1 or week 2?
It's the first big week of waivers, but it's week 2.
Week 2. I always get mixed up. Every year I do the same mistake, just so you know.
I know. It's week 2.
Actually, like I said week 0 last week.
And that was week 1.
Remind me who was on our cover last week, and who we told people to pick up. Just remind me. I forgot.
Oh, that was that. It was a running back, a Jordan Mason fella, maybe from San Francisco.
Georgia Tech. Yeah, Georgia Tech graduate. 49ers yesterday. He had an okay game, 100 yards, touchdown. We told you guys pick him up. McCaffrey's not healthy. You know, Shanahan lied. So there you go. So
yeah, he's going to get in some hot water. Did you hear about the interview?
Yeah. Why don't you tell the audience real quick what happened?
I guess after the game, one of the sideline reporters caught up to Jordan Mason, and one of the questions was essentially, when did you find out you were going to be starting this game? Because the whole world was shocked it wasn't Christian McCaffrey. And he said, they told me on Friday. But I guess Shanahan and Lynch went on the air on as recently as Saturday and said, oh yeah, he'll be good for Monday. He'll be ready to play, talking about CMC. And then Jordan Mason allegedly said, oh no, they told me on Friday to plan on starting. So,
I mean, listen, I'll just comment, and you can quote me on this. I mean, basically it's nobody's business, basically
the reason it's a rule and they're going to get in trouble is because so much gambling is tied to the NFL now, and they're in the pocket of a lot of these gambling institutions. So
I know, but again, from my personal opinion, I just don't think it's anybody's business. If the team wants to comment, they can. If they don't have to. It's part of the strategy. You know, when people don't have to prepare for McCaffrey, I think it's a big advantage to the Jets, which they had no idea that McCaffrey was going to be inactive until 3 hours before. And I get it, but my own personal opinion is it's nobody's business except the 49ers who plays and who doesn't. That's my opinion, and I understand there's betting involved, but I don't really care. But there you go. But I'm Ross the Boss. Let's recap last week, Casey Scheinfeld. There were some big upsets. Let's start with my Bengals.
Ooh.
In survivor pools were destroyed. Everybody I know was on the Bengals. I mean, everybody was taking the Bengals. And then when I heard Higgins wasn't playing, and then I heard that Chase
was going to be on a snap count.
Yeah, I was like, uh-oh, this is typical Cincinnati Bengal football. We'll lose the first one to the worst team in the league, which we did. So they go to Kansas City next week. I don't see them playing well enough to beat Kansas City in Kansas City. Sorry.
That's going to be a challenge.
Sorry, Casey. Let's talk about your Giants, Casey. I watched a little of that on Red Zone. Tell me what happened.
What happened? They were awful. That's what happened. There wasn't much in the way to speak of to make it anything positive. They were just terrible. I read a stat. I think I shared it with you. I texted it to you guys today. Daniel Jones, since he signed his $160 million contract, has thrown more touchdowns to the opposition than to his own team. He's given up more pick sixes than he has thrown touchdowns since he signed his contract. I mean, he was getting booed by fans on his way walking out of the stadium. Like they waited to heckle him. I feel bad for the kid. I mean, he's like, 26 years old, 27 years old. But man, is that a dumpster fire right now?
I mean, I know you're a big fan of the Giants, and all I got to say is the quicker they get rid of Daniel Jones, the better off they'll be. Huge injury, Jordan Love, second to last play of the game. I watched it. I mean, the player for the other team, it was a little dirty, I thought. They didn't talk about it, but I saw it. He kind of pulled his knee and twisted it. So he's out. Shortest time is 3 weeks. I don't know if he'll be back in 3 weeks, but
boy, does that just sabotage Green Bay from a fantasy perspective. Because who's coming in next week?
What are you talking about, Willis?
Malik Willis. They traded for him. The guy has never thrown for more than 100 yards in a game. How could you in 12 starts? We're not talking he's only had 2 starts, and it was 12 starts. He hasn't thrown more than 100 yards. You can't trust. They're going to put 9 guys in the box, and say, Josh Jacobs, I'm sorry, you're not going anywhere. And Malik Willis, I mean, he kills Christian Watkins. He kills Dontavian Wicks. He kills Romeo Dobbs. Jaden Reed as a slot receiver might still get some, and they'll find a way to hand the ball off to him. He was awesome last week. But, oh my gosh, is that terrible for anybody who drafted Packers for fantasy?
And Jordan Love, his second half of the season last year, Casey, was great. I mean, he played like he's worth.
Oh, he was one of the best quarterbacks in the league the last 7 weeks of the season.
He was great. I mean, he really was. And I was excited for him fantasy-wise, and excited for the Green Bay Packer fans because they're all over the place. And they were excited for their team. Now they're in trouble. Big trouble in River City. I mean, it's not going to be pretty. Casey, what else caught your eye over the weekend or even last night?
Well, there were a few things. I mean, there weren't a lot of the top wide receivers who popped. Justin Jefferson got in the end zone. Good for him. Tyreek Hill had a huge day after he was arrested. So he had a very memorable day after.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I saw the tape of that stuff, like the body cam, the other.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Shame on the Miami police. I know he didn't cooperate and he did not get out of the car that quickly. I get it. But, I mean, you got to recognize the guy. You got to recognize this Tyreek Hill, and he's going to work. And can we do this after the game? Does that have to be before?
Yeah.
I don't like people being treated differently, but come on, wake up.
Yeah. But, I mean, all the other receivers, all the rookie receivers, with the exception of Brian Thomas, kind of laid an egg in week one. Yeah. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown was invisible. Jamar Chase didn't do well. CeeDee Lamb did okay. He had 6 receptions and 60 yards or something like that. I'm not sure, but he didn't find the end zone. Mark Andrews was terrible. He was Isaiah Likely got 12 targets. Mark Andrews got like 3 or 4. Yeah. I don't know what the reason was for that, because they don't have an injury designation for him. Nope. So it was a lot of, we, as much as everybody else, recommended go wide receiver heavy in drafts. First 2-3 rounds, make sure you get those top wide receivers. And Puka Nacua, big injury there. He was put on the IR, so he's out at least 4 weeks. Yeah. And there's a bye week in there, so it's 5 weeks he's going to miss. And a lot of people used a late first, early second round draft pick on him. But wide receivers didn't really help you, because I don't think a lot of people played Aaron Lazard. I don't think
I didn't have him. I didn't have him in my fantasy, any of my teams this year.
Still don't think he's a good pickup, but that's another story. There's a kid, Devon Veal or Vele, I'm not even sure how to pronounce it, in Denver, who got eight catches.
All that.
It was.
I mean, you knew who impressed me, and I
weird
go down on him, Casey. I remember people were not drafting until the late second, third round. I was taking him in the second round this year. It was Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
And Cooper Kupp showed he didn't lose a step. I mean, he
delivered.
He scored a touchdown. I mean, he looked great.
And now DeMarcus Robinson or Tyler Johnson are going to be two of the big pickups at wide receiver this week, because DeMarcus Robinson is out there in 11 personnel anyway. He's their slot receiver, but Tyler Johnson is going to fill that Puka Nacua role.
Yeah.
I like the rookie Jordan Whittington. I hope he gets run, because he looks like Puka. But I don't know if he's more of a, if you can stash him on the end of your bench, he could be a guy eventually, but he's not one. He would be on my practice squad. How's that?
Practice squad. Now, do you still have the Carolina Panthers winning the Super Bowl? You picked them. I remember.
I'm a big fan. They really, I mean, I think Chuba Hubbard is droppable. I don't know if Bryce Young is not ownable in single quarterback leagues. In super flex leagues, you can have him as a third quarterback because you're going to need that many.
Yeah.
But Deontay Johnson, how can you trust him with Bryce Young? I mean, Bryce Young isn't there yet.
Nothing against Bryce Young. I know he was the first pick in the draft last year, but wow. I mean, talking about missing CJ Stroud and taking Bryce Young, I mean, what a huge mistake.
I mean, is there of the two, which is the worst run franchise in football, the Carolina Panthers or the Cleveland Browns?
If you ask Dr. Dan Ratner, he would say the Browns. If you ask Ross the boss, I would say Carolina. But I do like Carolina's coach. I'll tell you that. I like that guy.
Yeah, that's Canales or whatever his name is. Yeah, I'm hoping he could turn it around for him. But
it really is. I hope they keep him, because it's not his fault.
Yeah.
I think the first thing they got to do is figure out how to get rid of Bryce. I'm over Bryce Young. I don't think. I obviously he's not made for the NFL. I could be. I'm not going to be wrong. You can
Yeah.
quote me on this. All this stuff is quotable. I don't care. But Bryce Young to me is he's just an average below average quarterback in the NFL. That's not going to lead his team to the playoffs in our lifetime. But you know what? I mean, you learn from your mistakes. That's all I got to say. It's a learning process, I guess, still for some of these teams. Casey, let's talk waiver wire. We saw the first week, and the one thing I'm going to tell everybody is don't give up on your first 5-round players. Still start them. I don't care how bad they did last week. They'll come back and do well. And with the way we do waiver wires is they have to be under 60%. Let's say that. Is that fair? 60%? So at least we have some room in there. Under 60% owned. And if they're over 60%, we're not going to talk about waiver wire pickup. Obviously some of these guys are not pickable. But let's just I'll set you up with this. I have Jordan Love on my team. I need a quarterback. What quarterback should I go after?
Well, I will tell you in a second. Good, Tommy, the real Tommy V says, "Good afternoon, gentlemen, everyone. Yep. Good morning, but good afternoon, but I mean, look, it's got to be Baker Mayfield after this week. I mean, he's only 35% owned in Yahoo, and yet
4 touchdowns,
4 touchdowns, 290 yards, and they look like they're running kind of that West Coast offense where." Yeah. Rashad White and Bucky Irving are catching passes as much as they are running with the ball. So even their running game is kind of dink and dunk. And you got Mike Evans, you got Godwin, you got Jalen McMillan. Is it Jalen McMillan? Is that his name? The rookie?
I think it's McMillan. It could be, it doesn't matter. McMillan. Just say McMillan. You're good.
They got those wide receivers and the offensive line was keeping them upright. And how could he not be the top pickup? You don't want Malik Willis, as I already talked about. Daniel Jones certainly didn't look like he should be picked up.
No one has Daniel Jones starting.
Gardner Minshew was terrible. So it's got to be Baker Mayfield. Okay.
What impressed me was Sam Darnold. You and I were both talking trash about him, and Sam Darnold didn't look that bad. I mean,
the Giants have a tendency to make people look good, but in fairness to the Giants, they're supposed to have a good pass rush with Leonard Williams and Thibodeau and Burns. All right, Coda has a question for you. Summer had offered me Devon Achane, Devontae Adams, and Tank Dell for Justin Jefferson in Dynasty.
Okay, so Dynasty makes a huge difference. So Devontae Adams, aging in there, so it's an age factor.
But Achane and Tank Dell are young. I would say no, Coda. I think it's a good offer by him, but the reason I'm going to say no is running backs don't have a long shelf life. And now if you're in a position where you can win this year and you're a running back away, or next year and you're a running back away, then maybe it makes sense. But Jefferson is going to give you 10 years of elite production at the wide receiver position. Adams doesn't have but maybe 2 years left of production, Ross. How many do you think?
I would say, let's say it's about 3 years left in this.
And Achane, what's the average shelf life of a running back in the NFL? 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Tank Dell is, I know Ross is a huge fan. I like him too. He's a little undersized, but he could be one of those
but I mean, Diggs
Julian Edelman types.
Diggs and Collins are the 2 guys in Houston now. Dell's a good third receiver.
Right. He's a great third receiver.
I'd rather have Collins. And Diggs had 2 touchdowns last week. Who had Diggs having 2 touchdowns?
I know, but I'm not giving up Justin Jefferson for that. That's all.
I wouldn't either. Justin Jefferson is a top 5 receiver. He's definitely elite receiver in the league. And I wouldn't. Achane scares me with the injury too. You're right. Keep going.
Our GQ says thoughts on Green Bay's offense going into week 2 with Love hurt. Can Jaden Reed?
Horrible.
Look, if you caught the first couple minutes of the show, Malik Willis in 12 starts has never thrown for more than 100 yards.
Yeah.
I don't even know if he has a passing touchdown. I got to be perfectly honest. I don't think he does. Jaden Reed is the only one who has a chance. He's not going to put up another 30 points with a 30-yard rushing touchdown and 138 yards receiving. That was even a bit fluky. I wouldn't have predicted a repeat of that, even if Jordan Love was healthy, because you got too many other options there with Dobbs and Wicks and Watson and Josh Jacobs. But Jaden Reed is your best bet because he's more of the short pass run
But
after the
Jaden
catch
Reed
by
had a
the
great
guy.
game last week. I mean, he looked like an elite receiver to me. I mean, he was catching balls, running down the field. He's terrific. But again, without Love as your quarterback, it's a huge step down. And Green Bay, it makes me nervous what's going to happen in Green Bay next week because I don't think Willis is the guy to march them down the field, 80-yard drives. I don't see him doing it.
Yep.
So
So Freehola, I have 2 flex spots. Who should I leave out? Dobbins, Jerome Ford, or Christian Kirk?
you have 2 flex spots.
So 2 of those 3. Who are you leaving out?
Dobbins is on my list to pick up this week. He's 54%. So I can say Dobbins. He looked great last week for the Raiders. I mean, he terrific. Ford,
And let's point out also that Dobbins is going against Carolina this week, which is a really tasty matchup. Who is Cleveland playing?
Cleveland was at home last week against the Cowboys, and
they are playing Jacksonville. So it's Christian Kirk against Jerome Ford.
Right. Kirk, I watched, and he dropped a few passes last week. I was not a big Christian Kirk fan last week, so I would say Ford. That's my. Who do you like between those two?
Well, the full PPR, I like Kirk a little bit after seeing what Brandon Cooks and Dak Prescott were able to do against Cleveland last week. But Jerome Ford is going to be a volume guy. He's going to get more. I mean, I don't think Pierre Strong is going to take anything away from him. So I probably agree. I would go with Dobbins and Ford.
Both the running backs. There you go.
Oh, 9 Inch Nails is with us. Hey, T. Resner, how are you? Imagine drafting London in round 2. Apparently he did it.
Okay.
I did also, buddy. I haven't given up. It's week 1. Kirk Cousins didn't have a preseason. I look at Atlanta's game last week as a preseason game for them. And so I still haven't given up. My issue is if you watched any of that game, Kirk Cousins wasn't planting on the leg with the Achilles injury. And it's a question of when is he going to get back there so he can drive the ball again. I still believe in Drake London, but it might be a couple weeks.
Don't freak out on your elite receivers or the number 1 receivers after week 1. Just wait.
Remember, most teams don't play their starters in the preseason. So this is their first game speed action. And so you're not going to see the greatest performances always in week 1. And so I tend to not overreact to week 1 because otherwise we all go crazy.
I underreact. I don't freak out like I used to.
All right. Jaden Reed. Yeah. Thank you. I was thinking the same thoughts on Keon Coleman. Think he can break out with teams Buffalo has to face?
Well, but Buffalo plays Thursday night against Miami. I think that's going to be a high-scoring game.
It's going to be a shootout. I like him just because he's a big body in the red zone.
Yeah, and he also gets the ball a lot. I mean, they're looking for Allen's looking for him all the time. I mean, he's a rookie, I know, but I feel that Allen likes the kid, and I think he'll get 6 or 7 touches a game. How about that, Casey Scheinfeld? Let's talk waiver wire, Casey. Let's get back on waiver wire. Then we'll answer more questions, but keep on writing questions. I just want to get through some of the names we have on our list. Casey, we talked about some of the quarterbacks you should pick up. So you're high on Mayfield. I like Mayfield too. I always like Mayfield. And I'm not down on Sam Darnold anymore. I think Donald's going to have a pretty good year. But if you need a quarterback this week, I think Mayfield, we both agree, is my number 1 pick.
Yeah, that's who I would.
And for me, I'm worried about Burrow, just so people know. I have a couple quarterbacks in some of my leagues. I don't want to start Burrow right now. I'm nervous just because Higgins isn't there. When Higgins comes back, I'm fine. But there's no Tyler Boyd. He's in Tennessee, and Higgins is hurt, and Chase has a pitch count. So what am I doing? So let's talk. Wait, who else in the waiver wire do you like, Casey? If I'm on my computer right now, which I am, who am I setting up for tonight to pick up? Go.
Well, okay. Running
Number
backs,
1.
obvious running backs. J.K. Dobbins, I think, is a really good pickup. Yeah. Alexander Madison looked a lot better and actually got more use than Zamir White in Las Vegas. So Madison is a good one. I also like Tank Dell Tank Bigsby. I'm sorry, the other Tank.
He's not over 60%. Oh, okay.
Tank Bigsby in Jacksonville.
Yep.
He got 12 handoffs. And he gained a lot of yards. ETN is not the most durable guy always. And so I think he's going to get enough of a share that he could be a running back 3 or flex position some weeks. And Bucky Irving in Tampa Bay. Rashad White is not the greatest between the tackles runner. He was one of the least efficient runners in yards per carry last year. Bucky Irving looked like the real deal, running hard and downhill. I think he's going to get a lot more chances to do so. At wide receiver, we talked about him a lot in the preseason. Rashid Shaheed is the number 2 there in New
He
Orleans
got
and is a great
he
route
caught the
runner and
first
fast.
touchdown. He caught the first touchdown on Sunday. I don't know if you know that. He was
Oh,
the
no, I didn't.
first to recipient. He's the first guy to not the first down of the whole season, but the first touchdown on Sunday was your guy. And I said, oh, Casey's been talking about this guy for a long time, but he always catches a bomb for a touchdown every game last year. I remember.
Yep. I think Alec Pierce ended up getting 3 receptions, 125 yards and a
Oh my God,
touchdown.
Casey, every time I turned the TV on, he was catching bombs for like 40, 50 yards. I mean,
I don't know if that's going to be every week, but he has a game that's more fitting for Anthony Richardson because Pittman is kind of your find me quick because he's not a
okay,
not a fast guy. He's a big possession guy.
let me tell you about Richardson real quick. You brought it up. I mean, I like the kid. I think he's good. He just needs some more reps. Again, he was missing players like crazy, except for Pierce a couple of times. He was not hitting the target. I mean, he was not even close. I mean, it was like hitting picks and everything else, but he was not hitting targets like Pittman or Downs didn't play. But he wasn't hitting anybody except Pierce for a couple of times, and that was it.
Yep. Obviously with Puka Nakua's injury, we talked about it earlier, Tyler Johnson and Demarcus Robinson are going to be big names to pick up because they'll have much more significant.
Between those two, who should I pick up? DeMarcus?
Well, Demarcus Robinson has worked in the slot, has worked as the third receiver on the field, even with Puka there. So he's going to get a greater percentage because of the route tree. Tyler Johnson is going to go into Puka's spot. And so for me, I like Tyler Johnson because of
that's why I like
the big playability, but DeMarcus Robinson's been around for a long time and is trusted. And Brandon Cooks in Dallas,
touchdown.
He got a touchdown. He seemed to have some chemistry with Dak. They need extra targets there, especially with Jake the Snake Ferguson getting hurt. It looks like he's going to miss a few weeks. So I would look at him as well.
Now, let me ask you a question now about tight end position. You brought up Ferguson being hurt. Isaiah Likely, who, when Andrews was hurt last year, came in, filled out terrifically.
Right, and he was.
I mean, do you think this is the new guy that's going to take Andrews' spot? I mean, this guy.
I don't know if he's going to take Andrews' spot. I don't think Andrews lost anything. The game, for some reason, Andrews wasn't playing, and I haven't heard why he wasn't getting the targets. But I mean, Likely was white shoes away from being a 2 touchdown, 140.
He said, it said size 14. He said size 13. They would have won the game.
Right. So, I mean, Isaiah Likely's got to be a priority pickup. He's only 29% owned. So,
so
got 12 targets.
You think he'll be the number 1 waiver wire pickup of the week?
I think Jordan Mason, might be the number 1 pickup. I think Likely will be up there. I think Baker Mayfield will be up there. And then you'll see like either a J.K. Dobbins, maybe a Rashid Shaheed near the top of that pickup list.
Are there any other running backs? You said Madison, you said Dobbins. Any other running backs? You like Bucky Irving of the?
Yeah, I know Justice Hill is going to be popular this week because he got six receptions for 52 yards.
Yeah, right.
But I think that's fool's gold. He and Alan Lazard are kind of my 2 biggest fool's gold of the week because Justice Hill got 8 targets, 6 receptions because Baltimore was trailing the whole game and it needed to throw the ball. That's not going to be a game script for Baltimore very often. They're going to be winning most games. They were just up against Kansas City. And so you're going to see Derrick Henry get the bulk of the play in the backfield. And I think Justice Hill is not going to be the same. And to go to Lazard had 2 touchdowns, right? The last one was from Tyrod Taylor after Aaron Rodgers was taken out of the game in kind of garbage time. The first one was on one of those delayed offsides calls, and he just caught a bomb because Aaron Rodgers from his Green Bay days, when there's offsides, just run a go route and I'll try to hit you. And he hit him. So I don't think Lazard is good there either. All right, let's get to some of these questions. Deshaun Watson or Bo Nix for my super flex. Who would you drop for Sam Darnold? I'm dropping Deshaun Watson. I don't want to, I think you can drop either and be fine. But I think it's time to admit that Deshaun Watson is just, after his 1.5 year layoff, is not a good quarterback right now. Sam Darnold at least has Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison to throw it to. Who does Minnesota play this week? Let's see.
Not sure. But Watson, I agree with you. I think Watson could be the biggest bust.
They play, although
NFL.
although Minnesota goes up against San Francisco, so it's going to be a tough game for them.
It'd be tough, but they'll be catching up. So Donald's going to have to throw a lot. So if you think like how the script will go, they're not going to be running the ball a lot. They'll be passing. And another guy I like too for Minnesota is Ty Chandler. Talking about running backs, Casey Scheinfeld. Ty Chandler, I think, got the ball more than Aaron Jones last week, and he likes to catch the ball also. So
I still think Aaron Jones is going to be the workhorse in the back.
He's so long in the tooth. He's so beat up. I mean, I guess, whatever. But
Rendon Dye has a question. Would you drop Darnell Mooney or Adonai Mitchell?
Adonai Mitchell, they have high hopes for. I mean, they're high on this guy. I mean,
most rookie wide receivers don't produce well until games 5, 6, or 7. They have to get into the rhythm. Darnell Mooney is the clear number 2 wide receiver in Atlanta, but Kirk Cousins looked pretty bad. So it depends what you have to pick up. Either of those guys.
Yeah.
Either of those guys are droppable at this point. It depends on now, if it's a 14-team league, you can't drop either of them, but short of that. Okay. Is TJ Hawkinson, if he's still available, pick him up and throw him on IR?
Yes. He'll
be back if you have the IR spot, why not? What's the harm in it?
He'll be back, I think, latest November, earliest middle October. Supposedly he's running, and he hasn't done any contact drills yet, but he's going to be practicing with the team very soon.
All right. Someone offered me Tua. Oh, this must be a Superflex Dynasty. And next year's first for Jaden Daniels. 6 points.
Dynasty Superflex, 6-point passing touchdown.
Is it worth it?
So someone offered me Tua.
And the first year. Do you know where next year's first is going to be? Is it going to be the first overall pick, Scooby?
Well, it's probably dependent where he goes in the what place they finish this year in the standings. Go, if you finish last, you pick first. If you finish first, you pick last next year. I assume.
Look, if it's the first overall pick and Tua Tagovailoa in a super flex where passing touchdowns are worth just as much as rushing touchdowns, it's not an unfair offer. But Jaden Daniels, I mean.
I love Jaden Daniels. You're talking to the wrong guy. Casey, I forgot. Where did he spend his first 3 years in college? I totally forgot Jaden Daniels.
University of Arizona.
No. Just look, I'm wearing the shirt. Look.
I know. I always say University of Arizona, though.
I know you do. So, yes, 2-0 Arizona State. I don't hate that deal. I don't hate that deal.
I don't hate it, but I'm an upside guy.
Press yes. Because I love the first round pick for next year. And I think Tua has at least 3 or 4 years left in him, at least. He signed that huge deal. And he has weapons around him. He has Waddle, and he has this guy named Tyreek Hill. So on a team-wise, and a guy that's going to –
and Devon Achane is just as good of a receiver as he's a runner, it looks like.
Yeah. I would do that deal. But, Casey, I'm going to say yes. I would trade I would get Tua.
RGQ says, am I the only one who doesn't believe in Jaden Daniels right now? That O-line is atrocious. I agree with you that right now they're not a very good team, but this is a dynasty league. So it's not a redraft league. So
but I think that Jaden has he ran for 2 touchdowns last week. A lot of the receivers were not even heard of. The passing game was horrible. So they need Eckler to get more involved in the offense. I think so. And Brian Robinson needs to be more involved. I mean, it's just the Commanders need a lot of help. And I think Tua right now with the receivers he has, I think he'll have 4,000 yards passing if he plays all year.
Oh yeah. Okay. This is about the Mooney drop or Adonai Mitchell drop.
Yeah.
Tank Bigsby, Jalen McMillan, Justice Hill, Alexander Madison. It's either Tank Bigsby or Alexander Madison for me. And I would drop Mooney for one of them over Adonai Mitchell because I still believe in Mitchell. Mooney was not re-signed in Chicago for a reason. So if I'm going to believe in somebody, I'm going to believe in
Yep.
Mitchell.
I
Okay, getting
agree.
back to Mr. Konopka. Should I worry about Achan? My backup running back is Dowdle. What do you mean worry about him? Achan's not hurt last I heard.
No, but he didn't have like a huge game like he always does. I
Well, he
wouldn't worry.
did. I mean, what did he have last week?
I
Because
mean,
he caught a
I
bunch.
know. I like Achan. I think
Achan had 76 yards receiving and a touchdown rushing. So,
yeah. I don't know. He's not hurt. I didn't see
I mean,
anything.
if you only have 2 running backs on your roster and they're Achan and Dowdle, yeah, I would worry about that. I would try to get a
Yeah, but
third.
pick up Madison. Pick up
Pick up
Bixby.
Tank Bigsby, pick up Madison, go for something like
Yeah,
that.
pick up some guys that
Or
are
if
waiting
you only
for
have
it.
those 2 running backs, chances are you're pretty deep somewhere else. Use some of
Yeah,
your strength.
yeah, but
Oh, he also has Brees Hall.
oh, I never heard of him.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
I think having Achan and Brees Hall, you're okay.
Yeah, I mean, look, as long as Achan doesn't get hurt for actually pick up Jalen Wright, because if Achan goes out, Jalen Wright's going to step into that Achan role.
Yeah. Also Bucky too. I like Bucky in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, Bucky Irving, and he just has a great
I just
name.
call him Bucky. I don't say his last name.
How do you not like Bucky?
Any guy named Bucky is a good friend of mine. I mean, I wish I had a best friend named Bucky. Wouldn't it be great growing up? This is my friend Bucky. I never had that. So. Next, any other questions, Casey? I gave my waiver wire. I gave all my waiver wire stuff. We went over. We have a big game on Thursday. We'll be live Thursday.
Well, hold on. Resner wanted to point out that Achan is hurt. He did miss practice yesterday with an ankle. You're right, but according to everybody and from what I've read from the reporters, it's not anything worrisome that he's going to miss any time. It's more a day off after a game. They're just letting him rest it. But yeah, Achan missed a few weeks last year because of a soft tissue injury. So it's not like he's the sturdiest. But I would pick up Jalen Wright if I was you. Because I think he would be the one who steps in to take him.
I agree. I think that Achan will just keep on running, getting the ball, and keep running, and hopefully he stays healthy. But we can't predict that stuff. I mean, I can't predict injuries except McCaffrey.
I know how many people said that preseason. The only worry with him is he going to get hurt? And now they're saying with his Achilles, he could miss next week too.
Yeah.
So here's a question for you, Ross. Yeah. I, on Thursday of last week, picked up Jordan Mason, even though I'm not a CMC owner. Do I trade him? Do I try to find the
if you can find some guy sucker to trade with that believes that 100 yards touchdown first game of the year is going to happen more and more and more. Yes, I would trade him if he can get somebody. If he gets somebody in the first 2 rounds of the draft, yes. It just depends who wants him, and I would actually go after the guy who has McCaffrey, because obviously the guy didn't do his homework and he didn't handcuff him. So there you go, let him suffer.
Maybe I'll do that.
Suffer. And I told people that these are the handcuffs. McCaffrey, Mason, Mitchell's out for the year for the Niners. So Mason's we had him on our cover last week for a reason. This week's Mayfield. Why do you think Mayfield's on the cover this week? Because he's going to have a big year and he's playing Detroit this weekend. He's going to have 3 touchdowns at least, with Detroit's going to have tons of points too. It's going to be a 60-point game.
Here's an interesting trade offer.
Who?
I got offered Tyreek Hill and Ayuk for CMC.
I got offered Tyreek Hill and Ayuk. Yes, just press accept. That's a good one. Accept.
It depends who else you have at running back, because you're not getting a running back in the deal.
That's true. I'm sure one of them uses flex. And
if you have running back depth.
Yeah, I would press accept. I think Hill's going to have more points fantasy-wise than CMC.
At this rate, yeah.
CMC, I told you, they're going to use him sparingly during the season, and they'll make the playoffs, and they'll play during the playoffs. And that's nothing for fantasy.
No, I don't think Bucky is the running back 1 at this point in Tampa, but he's not far from being – he's in that 50-50 split range. And I mean, he's already getting good run, and as we
Yep.
know, Rashad White wasn't very effective last year, or
Yeah,
wasn't. I shouldn't say that. He wasn't very efficient. He was effective.
I forgot what school did Rashard White go to. I forgot. I always
Oh,
forget.
he went to BYU. Thoughts on Josh Jacobs? I love Josh Jacobs. I thought he was going to have a big year. The loss of Jordan Love is going to kill him because
We know
Malik
about
Willis
Willis.
Malik Willis is not going to put
Oh,
any fear into a defense, and they're just going to dare Malik Willis to
no, they're
beat him.
gonna key off. They're gonna tee off on Malik. It's
Oh man,
gonna be a bloodbath.
the guy with CMC also has Kyron Williams and Pacheco. Yes, then I'd make the trade. Give me Tyreek Hill and Brandon
Accept.
Ayuk.
Look,
Yep,
accept.
I'm doing it.
You're having like you have like 4 number first round guys on your team now. I mean,
All right. So, what would you do about my wide receiver room? I have Devontae Adams, Malik Neighbors. Is that
Dell.
Brendan Rice, Tank Dell,
No,
and Roma Dunze?
wait,
So, a couple
right?
bench spots would likely get us. Well,
Jerry Rice. I think Jerry's back in the game, and I think that's
yeah. Well, I mean, Brendan Rice is to me droppable at this
he's
point.
on the Chargers, right?
Yeah, and he's
I mean,
down
I'm
on their
good friends
depth
with
chart.
I'm good friends with the guy who brought him up as a
Oh,
son.
Rashi Rice. Never mind. Okay, Rashi Rice makes a big difference. Okay, so you have great wide receivers. Devontae Adams, Malik Neighbors, Rashi Rice, Tank Dell, and Adunze. So a couple bench spots.
Yeah.
Would like to get a solid running back one because I don't know if there are any. Oh, wide receiver one. So you want a wide receiver one. Well, then I would package maybe Adams and Neighbors or Adams and Dell.
Okay. I'll give you some advice. I would wait another week, and hopefully Neighbors has a big week. Dell, Rome, one of these guys.
Well, the reason I'm saying Adams, Devontae Adams already is because Las Vegas and Gardner Minshew and Tank Dell is good. And we like Tank Dell, but there's also this guy named Nico Collins and this guy, Stephon Diggs, who are also in that same receiver room who are pretty alpha. So Tank Dell is going to have a lot of cold weeks, but if you can get Adams and Dell and turn that into a Marvin Harrison Jr. or another AJ Brown, something like that. Heck yeah,
right,
he
has to wait till one of these guys produce. You're not going to get what they're worth until they show their worth during the week. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
No one cares about Neighbors. No one cares about Rice. No one cares about Dell, and no one cares about Roma Donze, who I love. I have him on my fantasy team with you.
Yeah, I just don't think Adunze gives you the value to get somebody because of DJ Moore and Keenan Allen.
Catch on Sunday, and the Bears have a tough game coming up this week. I don't know. It's horrible.
It's so but I mean, look, we're getting to talk.
When you trade, let me just tell my audience. I mean, when you trade players, like if I had Jordan Mason, and I would try to trade him this week. On all seriousness, just because you're not going to get a better value than right now for Jordan Mason. Same thing with Cooper Kupp. I mean, I think Cooper Kupp's going to have a great year, but if some idiot wants to package AJ Brown for him and for Cooper Kupp or something in that stature that's a little better, in my opinion, I would do it. But again, people work in fear. They work on, what happened last week. And I get it, but you got to take advantage of those people because a lot of them have no idea how football works or fantasy football works. It's all averages, and it's all averages out at the end. And it's true in baseball too, Casey. We play baseball against each other, and if somebody starts out the season slow, we know they're going to pick it up at the end. It just happens.
Yeah, the big names tend to get back to back of what we used to call the back of their baseball cards when we were talking baseball back in the day. But would you trade ETN for a Josh Jacobs, Pacheco, or Kyron Williams type of player?
Yeah,
I'd take Kyron Williams over any of those.
I would say Pacheco too. ETN, I never talked about him. I never brought him up in any running back talks. I'm not impressed. I don't like Jacksonville's offense. I don't like Trevor Lawrence is just regressing every year. And I don't like anything about Jacksonville.
I think ETN was a top 5 running back at the end of last year, wasn't he? Or top 7?
I don't know. I'm not impressed. I mean, I think Tank Bigsby's going to get half the handoffs.
He could. So, I mean, look, it's only been 1 week. You got to be careful not to overreact after the first week. You're looking for trends. One game is not a trend. 2 or 3 games, multiple data points make a trend, and that's what you're looking for right now. I made, like, in our MFSN league, Dan and I made a trade with Mark, the Missouri Raiders, because it's a super flex and he only had one quarterback. So I gave him Aaron. He bid on Aaron Rodgers and Jalen Wright for Devonta Smith. We didn't need the extra quarterback and we wanted a better wide receiver. So we had Jalen Hurts. So that's a stack. But don't trade your best players. Try to upgrade. He also has Jamison Williams. Jamison Williams could pop this year. So, he had a good first game. We know what he did at Alabama. Unfortunately, with his knee injury, he missed his whole rookie season. So,
no, they have high hopes for him in Detroit. Obviously, Goff likes him a lot. He gives them the ball. And I think if he can stay healthy, and St. Brown stays healthy, I really think Detroit's going to.
Yeah, that offense is deep. So, but that was a lot of names we gave you today, Ross.
Yeah, and there's and this is the time you got to pick up the players in the first few weeks, because after that, it's going to be more slim pickings, more slim picking. It's going to great actor, but again, make sure you put your claims in, because tonight's the night, and you'll find out tomorrow if you got them. So, Casey, I just want to remind the audience: make sure you put your claims in for the players that you want.
Yep, make sure you get them in tonight.
And we'll see everybody on Thursday at 1:00 and 4:00 Eastern on the same channel, MFSN. And thanks for watching, anybody. If anybody has any late questions, they can always email us, right? Or
put them in the comments. Yep, and we'll try to get to them all.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
That's Casey Flat of the Bone Scheinfeld. We'll see you guys, everybody. We'll see everybody Tuesday for Waiver Wire. So keep on, tell your friends. We'll always ask us questions. We love answering them. We'll see everybody on